I will call this meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. It is 7:00 p.m. This meeting of the Acton Finance Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth and the local state of emergency declared by the Acton Board of Selectmen and Board of Health due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the Board of Selectmen have suspended all public gatherings. And in accordance with the governor's order, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The governor's order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations and/or committee votes of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Acton Finance Committee is convening by video conference via the Zoom app, as posted on the meeting agenda, town's website calendar, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. All right, we will be starting with any citizen concerns. Do we have any citizens attending? We have no one attending, so I'm not expecting to see a hand up there. So let's move on to the second item, which is warrant recommendations. Mr. Martin, I want to check whether you think there's anything we need to discuss relative to your article in case we are, you are unable to be here when we come to discuss it.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to answer any questions, but Article 2 has no appropriated cost associated with it. It's just a simple, the town council has termed it just a simple search for place. It's a little bit more than that, but we don't have stocks of letterhead or anything else these days. It's all printed on the fly, so there's no appropriated cost. It's just the normal legal fees that are included in every budget.
Thank you. Whose article was Article 2? This is the renaming of the executive of the Board of Selectmen?
That's correct. It's a select board.
Savannah, did you want to speak to that at all, or should we just make a motion?
I thought we already discussed this probably for the June meeting, and I saw that in the warrant that it was already recommended. So are we still going through the motion, or?
I think we need to.
Okay, so I recommend that the name be, the charter be changed from Board of Selectmen to Select Board.
I'm sorry, you have to make a motion about what our recommendation should be.
The Finance Committee would recommend, or I would recommend that the name change from Board of Selectmen to.
You want to say that you would move that that the Finance Committee recommend?
I would make a motion to recommend the Article 2, that is renaming of Board of Selectmen to Select Board.
Second.
All right, any debate? Steve? Hold on, you're muted.
Mute yourself.
I don't know how we're supposed to address people in the future. Is it your membership, or how do we call these people?
So I officially in the document will be members of the select board, but we can still be called selectmen and selectwomen, like congressmen and congresswomen. Or hey, you is fine.
We don't have to refer to you as your eminence.
No, hey, you is fine.
Jason?
I just heard Selectman Martin say that there was no appropriations required for this, but is there truly no cost to this? Is there truly no legal expenditure, no recasting of previous documents? Is there truly no cost to making this change?
Mr. Martin,
There is a cost, and I mentioned that they're just legal fees that are in the normal budget. So there is a cost, and when we to actually change the document, and then we submit it to the legislature. The submission to the legislature doesn't have any cost, but preparing the document does.
Jason, would you like to ask how much that cost is?
I'm curious what the cost is, and if there are other costs such as having to recast previous documentation. My understanding is that we have to go back and recast a whole bunch of documents, and there's got to be a cost associated with that.
No, I think I asked that. So first of all, I don't know the exact cost in legal fees to change this document. It's probably on par with changing the number of members of the planning board, which we did this past year. And I asked that question that you just asked, and we do not need to go back and find in historical documents every instance of Board of Selectmen and change it to Select Board. We can just leave those documents alone and then use the new term going forward.
Thanks for the clarification.
I have one question for the board to consider whether this is something we actually feel we should be giving a recommendation on, given that it has, I think, no financial impact. Roland.
Well, it does have a financial impact because you're still going to be paying town council to recast whatever document after you recast, so and file it with the state legislature. So there's a cost there. It's just we just don't know how much it is.
Okay, I understood that Mr. Martin to have just said that it was a minimal cost.
It's still a cost.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not out. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Martin?
Yeah, it's not outside the normal appropriation for legal fees for the town.
Okay. I take it no one else agrees with me that this is outside of our charter, so we have a motion and a second. I will do a roll call vote. Christine?
Aye.
Sorry, have to scan along. Roland?
Aye.
Jason?
Nay.
Steve?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Sahana?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
And Christy, I say aye. All right, the motion is made and passes.
Thank you.
I would like to pause for a second and introduce Isha quickly. You'll notice Isha has joined us in the bottom. She is our new associate member. When we get to Finance Committee business, we'll actually do a more formal introduction, okay?
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Benson, would you please speak to us and have your various representatives speak to us about your article?
This would be an article seeking your recommendation in support of Article 4 of the Small Business Grant Program. The Select Board asked me earlier, and I came before you on July 28th to take soundings as to your reactions to the program. And based on those reactions, I crafted this presentation in a different way. You had questions about how was the program devised, who would it help, how eligibility would be determined. So I've asked Matthew Selby, our Director of Business Development and Land Use and the creator of the program, if he would come in, and he's here tonight, to explain how he crafted the program and the other questions that you had raised. If we could, with the chairman's permission, if Selby could give his presentation, take questions, because he has to jump to another meeting.
Certainly, Selby, do you need to be able to share your screen?
I just have something else first before we go into just to tell you what's in store. So then, in additional, the additional questions that came up out of the July 28th meeting would be, will the $4,000 awarded to eligible businesses really make a difference? How would it be used, and what are the business's plans going forward? So I thought the best way to respond to that would be to put a human face to those questions. So will be three presenters, all local business proprietors. Judy Romatelli, who is the proprietor of Periwinkle Glassworks in West Acton. Anita Opis and her assistant, who owned Michael's Shoe. That was a 30-year-old business that ended in February, and Anita bought it. And then Kira Marino, who is the proprietress of Community Revolutionary Yoga in Village Works in West Acton. So they will be presenting. After they finish, I have about 1 minute of concluding remarks, and they're certainly here for questions. So if we could begin with Selby, Madam Chairman.
Certainly, Selby.
Hi, thanks for everybody. Thanks for inviting me tonight. My name is Selby. I am Acton's Land Use and Economic Development Director, a position I've held for the last 4.5 years. Selectman John Benson asked me to join your meeting tonight to talk about the small business grant program that will be on the town meeting warrant in early September. In May of this year, the Board of Selectmen voted to direct $100,000 of the town's CARES Act funding to create a small business assistance program for those businesses that were impacted by the COVID-19 closures. Grants of up to $4,000 were to be made available to Acton small businesses. Working with the town manager and town council, we set up a program and application based largely on a similar program that was being administered by the city of Boston. The eligibility criteria that we set forth are as follows. They had to be for-profit businesses with a physical commercial presence in Acton, employing up to 35 people, generating less than $1.5 million in annual revenues, who could document loss of 50% or more due to COVID-19 closures, and were not a local or national chain business. A total of 43 eligible applications were received, and on 18th of June, we held a lottery at Town Hall to select 25. We were thinking most of the grants were asking for right around the 4,000 mark. A few came in a little less, so we figured it could fund 25 grants for the $100,000. Before we could send out the contracts to the lottery winners, however, the Department of Revenue informed the town that we would not be reimbursed for this program if we move forward. The Board of Selectmen believes this is an important program, which is why this is on the town meeting warrant to be created and funded from free cash. Some of the businesses, or these are the 43 businesses that were eligible who applied. You'll see some familiar names here. I don't need to point them out to you. I'm going to scroll down to the next page of businesses. You'll see some restaurants, skincare, massage, retail, dentists, offices, a gallery, athletic avenues, etc. So these are the 43 businesses that were deemed eligible for the program. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have, or if John wants to carry on with the presentation.
Does anyone have any questions specifically for Selby? Mike?
Well, it's not really a question, but I would also like to add that the Economic Development Committee strongly endorsed this program and was requesting that the town somehow get involved in some way to support small business. And we will, as the EDC, we will, there will be a continuing effort to, to support small businesses in various ways. Thank you.
John, did you have an idea of who would go next?
Okay, so you don't need Selby anymore, so.
I don't believe we do. Thank you,
Okay.
Selby.
Okay, so Judy, would you like to start?
Sure. So, hi, my name is Judy Romatelli. I'm the owner of Periwinkle Art and Glassworks in West Acton Village. I'm a full-time respiratory therapist, which is why I'm dressed the way I am. I am still at work. I have always worked with stained glass on the side. It kind of exercises the other side of my brain. I have always been teaching and selling at craft fairs, but it was getting a little too much for my house. So about 7 years ago, I moved into it used to be the chocolate shop in West Acton, the little yellow building next to the bank. I outgrew that space very quickly. I had no idea that it would grow so far beyond what my original business plan was into the fabulous place that it is now. We currently have close to 100 artists in our shop and gallery. They're all local. Most of them are within a 15-mile radius of the store. Many of them are our neighbors right in West Acton and in Acton in general. So they teach there, they work there, they sell their art there. So it's a great gathering place for people. We've expanded our program so that we now do a lot of teaching in addition to the retail sales. Our classroom area is twice the size it used to be. We do classes from ages 3 to grandparents. We host large group parties, and in fact, we had one family that came, and the family was actually from an age 3 to a grandparent. So we do things like that all the time, and it's awesome. We have developed really close ties to the community of Acton. We are a supporter of the farmers market. We've hosted interns from the Victor School to help them with, business ideas and supporting social interactions for them. We have contributed to every raffle, auction, silent auction, local event that somebody's always asking us, and we give it because we love to support them. Last year we had our first annual kids art exhibit and sale, which was received very well. It was great to see the kids in our local community come in and make a marketing presentation of this is what I create, and it's beautiful, and I would like to sell it here. So we gave them a little experience in marketing and then a little experience in retail sales. We had an opening for them, so they had an art gallery opening. It was a nice event. We had music and food, and it was a nice thing. We've participated. Let's see. I'm sorry. I do have notes. We've offered free or reduced classes for parents that tell us they can't afford for their kids to take a class. So we have just given them the class or done it at a reduced cost, whatever the parent feels that they could pay. We've worked with the AB schools doing teacher appreciation events, giving discounts to the schools so they can provide for the teachers. We've worked in the after school program. We've set up a program with Danny's Place. All of these things we would love to be able to continue doing. But then COVID hit. So when COVID came along, we struggled a little bit, and then we just shut down. So we shut down in the end of February, beginning of March, and we were completely shuttered for 3 months. During that 3 months, we lost all of our income. I mean, I'm fortunate that I have a job. I work in the hospital. I'm a respiratory therapist, so I have a guaranteed income. And I was literally paying the bills out of my own pocket. I was paying, if an artist made a sale, I would pay them out of my own pocket. So I did get a small grant and was able to pay the rent for a couple of months, pay the artists, and pay some bills. But now we're back to the store is open again, but we don't have any of our summer camp classes. I mean, it's thousands and thousands of dollars that we lost by not being able to hold these classes. We are still trying. We're still doing things for the community. Our artists have all banded together, and we're making like art pack supplies to give out to the food pantry, so that kids that they need to have something to do. So we're able to give them a little bit of art, a little bit of joy. We've tried to support our artists by loading all of their product onto our website, so people can actually go onto the website and order, and we'll hand deliver if it's local, or we'll ship it to people. And we've had some success with that, not as much as we would have liked, but definitely not enough to pay the rent, but it's enough. So this grant program through the town would be a lifesaver for us because it would allow us to pay the rent for a couple more months, even if we didn't have a lot of sales and we still can't do the group classes that we were doing. It would allow us to keep the roof over our heads and keep the possibility there. So it would give us the opportunity to try through the holiday season to see if we can, eke through and make it to the other side of COVID. So that's our goal. So hopefully this helps. I know that we truly would appreciate it. We truly would love to stay. We have lots of plans for things we want to do in the community, and we would like to continue doing it.
Should we
Thank you,
go
Julie.
on, Chris?
Certainly,
want-
please.
Our second presentation?
Yes.
And then questions at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so Anita and Heidi, please.
Oops, I had to unmute myself. So hello, I'm Anita Opitz. I'm the new owner of Michael's Shoe, now Michael's Shoe Boutique. And I took over the business in February, on February 10th to be exact, without knowing obviously that a crisis would hit shortly after. So the initial plan was to open the store end of March, and then we had to shut down before we even were able to open. But the previous sales team helped me to, that was still before we had to close or could not open. We could buy the inventory, and I made the connections with the vendors. I got recommendations from the team, from the previous team, which vendors are the most important. And so we could set up all these contracts and agreements and get the inventory in, and we were ready to open the doors, and then everything shut down. So that means basically now the main issue is that obviously during the 2 months that I have lost where I had to be shut down, I could have sold shoes to buy more for the fall. And I am able to do that because I did, first of all, I had an inheritance from my mom, so that was how I could purchase the store. I don't know if you need numbers, but
Why don't you give them numbers?
yeah. So 20,000 was my inheritance from my mother, and I was able to purchase the store with that money. And then I took loans with 2 different banks, 50,000 total, and then that was sufficient initially to buy enough inventory to get started. But then when the crisis hit, I realized I needed more, so I accessed my retirement fund and took $50,000 out of that retirement fund. What else should I say? Okay, so when I had to close down before even opening, the previous sales team, they had done their job. They had helped me. They would have stayed on to sell, but we couldn't sell. So then Heidi, I had met her shortly before, and we had already planned to start working, and she would come maybe on an hourly basis. But then it actually turned out that it made sense to start working while we were locked down. We started working together because she brings the retail experience and the shoe business experience that I don't have. So she grew up in retail, and she worked in the shoe business, and she has a certification in shoe fitting. And then she also knows a lot about technology, and that was my main goal, to get started with POS system, which is something that the previous owners didn't have. They did everything old school by hand. So we used the 2 months that we were closed to set up that system, to get all the inventory into the system, and then also to build a website. And because we thought if this takes longer, maybe we could start selling a little bit online, even though this is not my main focus. I wanted to actually, when I took over, my main goal was to bring people back into the stores and away from online ordering. But it is a good backup to have, that people can order online, and at least it helps. They can see the shoes online and know what is there, and then so it's definitely a good thing to have. So Heidi helped with all that. And so since we've opened, we could open in June, we've actually gotten so much positive feedback already. And so I'm very excited and positive, even though we are still in the crisis. But people have been so, like everybody basically who walks into the store says, I'm so happy you're still here, and I'm so happy you took over. And I know from the previous owners that when they closed, many people were crying. They were so sad to see that store close after 34 years. And there is not really another shoe store of that kind in the area. And so we had a lot of plans that I still, like one of our, well, maybe Heidi can add a few things here that I may have forgotten. So why don't you just add a little bit what our plans are, how we want to be a little bit different, and yeah, why don't you pick up a little bit? We can't hear you, I don't think. Heidi?
Could you get Heidi on? Why is that?
I can't hear her, but
Yeah, Heidi, you are unmuted, but we can't hear you.
maybe she didn't choose the microphone or something.
Okay, Nita, why don't you continue, and Heidi?
Yeah, so anyway, Heidi and I, we just are both, we bring a little more, obviously a little more feminine energy into the store. It was owned before by two men and two sales people, so all guys. Now it's us two women, and we just bring a little more feminine energy in the store. And also, so what we would like to do is really show the value of coming to a store versus ordering online, which is really, with shoes, it is important to try them on. And that's also what so many people appreciate. They come in and say, oh, I'm so glad I don't want to order online. I want to support local. And I'm so thankful that I can come here and try shoes on. And Heidi has also already done a few home visits. So especially now in the crisis, there are some people who are just still nervous to go to a store. So we are flexible doing that. So we really adapt to what people need. And it's all about good customer service. And I'm also adding a few new brands because I want to bring a few more customers into the store that maybe haven't been to the store before, because it's a very loyal customer base that I want to keep, but I want to add more customers. And I've gotten a lot of requests for kids shoes, so I'm going to add kids shoes. And so the grant will really just help us to get started, because it's the beginning is the hardest to get things going, and we just need to catch up now with the 2 months that we've lost selling. So I have just done a lot of buying, but now I have to start selling. And starting September, I will have to start paying rent, which in the beginning I didn't have to do, which was a big relief. But the $4,000 would help me with the rent whilst things are still slow, or we could add additional sizes, because that's a big issue that we sometimes don't have all the sizes, and then adding more sizes. So there is a lot of use for the money, and we are confident that we will make this work through the crisis. And for me, it's just I'm very motivated because I don't have a plan B. So if this doesn't work, I really don't know what else I would want to do, because I've always wanted my own business, and I was just when this opportunity opened up, I was just looking for a change and for something meaningful. And this is something that really feels meaningful to me, to keep a business going that so many people were sad to see close. And so I'm confident that we can do that, Heidi and I. And if we need more help down the road, we'll hire more help. But right now, I think the two of us, we can do it. And I don't know if there's anything else.
Can you hear me now?
That I forgot. Oh, see now, Heidi. Yeah, you can add a few words at least.
I think that what I wanted to add was basically what we tried to utilize the time that we have had as downtime being closed with COVID to try to build the website. So we've got michaelshootacton.com up and running, and continuing to add product. One of the things that was a stumbling block to us was that initially, when I came on at the beginning of May, we went to the shoe show and ordered all the spring and summer stock. And unfortunately, by the time that we opened, we were at the end of that season, and we're not able to actually have. We're trying to catch up with the orders. So having the grant would actually be able to have us back on track as far as time wise, to finish and prepare ourselves for fall and winter, because now they're showing spring 21 already as far as retail. But I think that what we need to concentrate it on right now is basically the SEOs, the sales engine optimization is extremely important at this point. So any extra money here and there to be able to go towards advertisement and sales engine optimization is, as far as Facebook, Instagram, keeping the local areas. Locally.com is somewhere where you can look up all of the stores that are in the area that carry things. We've been really proactive in trying to find out what the community wants and needs, and if there are people that are outside of are uncomfortable coming inside the store, we're making appointments to be able to have them come before or after store hours in order to be able to have the things that they need as far as shoe wise. I have also made outside appointments to go to people's homes, and would like to also have pop-up shops for if there are, let's say, the elderly needed, to have replacements of shoes and things like that, to actually have me go there and do fittings for them, and be more accommodating in our customer service. So as far as our future plan, I think that, we're on track in trying to, move forward and accommodate the customers that are coming in with the kids lines that we're going to be carrying. There's not another kids store that's in kids shoe store that's in the area, so that's going to be something that we're going to be working proactively to try to be accommodating to the children that have already gone out of their shoes 3 times since COVID happened. I think that we are, Anita and I are both, looking positively in trying to move forward, and having the opportunity to have that extra pulse of income would be extremely helpful to help us to stay on track. So I think we're in a good place, and trying to stay optimistic. So that's pretty much what I have to say for the moment. But thank you for listening.
It'll be, third presenter will be Kira Marino, the proprietor of Community Revolution Yoga in Village Works in West Acton.
Hi, everyone. I'm here. Can you hear me? First of all, thank you, John, for reaching out to me about this, and thanks to you all for taking the time to listen to us business owners. My name is Kira Marino. I own Revolution Community Yoga right in the Village Works complex. I actually started going there as a student back in 2011, and then, long story short, ended up taking over the studio as the owner in 2013. And our client base consists of tons of people from Acton, but also people from all the surrounding towns. We've got yoga, just yoga classes on a daily basis for people who have a regular yoga practice. We have prenatal yoga, we have kids yoga, we have chair yoga. We've, got a yoga for 12-step class that we were trying to run on a monthly basis. Just my whole vision was to have it be sort of a community hub and a place where people could come and try something new maybe, and just come into a non-judgmental, non-intimidating space and see what yoga is all about. So, we closed on March 13th, and within, it was probably the craziest week of my life, but we switched our whole platform to holding classes online. So that was totally insane. I'm still not sure how we even managed it, but what we ended up doing was giving free classes to anyone who wanted them for 2 weeks, so we could iron out the kinks and figure out how the whole online thing worked. And we created a library of free classes then that we still have on our website now, for people who can't afford to pay for yoga, or if it's not in their budget to pay for yoga, that's there for them as a resource. And it's been pretty powerful, the feedback I've gotten from people. I mean, people who end up bringing yoga into their life as a consistent practice, it does become something that is, personal. It can be spiritual. It's certainly more than just a physical practice. And I've had so many people writing to me saying, thank you so much, because this has kept me sane through this time when we've all been trapped in our houses and with all the uncertainty and anxiety that's come along with the pandemic. So I'm glad we made the switch. It was something I never intended to do is to go online. And, ideally what I'm looking to do is open the doors back up, but because we are considered a fitness gym, I guess, we weren't actually able to start opening them until early July, and I was still feeling nervous about bringing people indoors. So at that time, instead of bringing people indoors, we started offering outdoor classes, which have been great. And the town has been wonderful, allowing us to use Gardner Field across the street from Village Works. So of course, those will only be able to run until probably, early to mid-October, when it becomes too cold to start doing that. So the plan is, I'm hoping to start slowly opening up indoor classes. One of the things that I would be so grateful for this grant for is that I'm feeling I have to install a UV sort of air purification system into my HVAC in the one room that's going to be opening up. And so this grant would be, a huge help in that department. As far as money goes, I'm super grateful to have Matthias Rosenfeld as my landlord. He has been incredibly understanding and flexible. I'm paying what I can, but it's sort of just moment to moment, and I do what I can. But I was proud to be able to keep paying teachers, keep paying my cleaning person, keep paying my the woman who helps me with my admin. I kept paying them through this whole time because I just felt like I didn't want to see that taken away from them. So that's sort of where I'm at. I mean, in terms of the community, we've always been super involved with the community. I've been, since 2015, I've been an annual sponsor for the Acton Rec Department. I've done lots of Acton Relay for Life fundraising. We've done fundraising for the Acton Food Pantry. And as Judy said, we've sort of donated to every raffle, auction, anytime anyone from the town gets in touch for help, we always do what we can, and happily. It's a great community, and we have a lot of great students who are part of the community too. So I think that's my story for now. It's sort of, every penny counts at this point. So I'm just grateful that you all would even consider something like this. It's very generous. Thank you for your time. If I can answer anything else, I will.
So in terms of, to conclude our presentation, in terms of concluding comments, there would be 43 businesses that would be eligible for grants. I think we all frequent some of them. They're a part of the fabric of our community, and as you've heard from the presenters, they all give back. Their particular circumstances now are not their fault. COVID was beyond all of our reaches. There were issues the last time, a philosophical one about government should not be using taxpayers' money to fund private businesses. But the fact is that the federal government, through congressional approval and authorizations this past spring, approved, I think, well up to $1 trillion in small business grant programs for businesses of 500 employees or less. That included sports teams like the Los Angeles Lakers basketball team. It included large law firms. And many of these outfits had banking relationships already existing, top-notch CPAs to guide them through. The businesses in town are mom and pop shops. They don't have banking relationships. The relationships with the bank are to deposit checks and then pay their bills through their checking account. And I think it's important to note with the federal monies that supported the federal programs, those are all borrowed funds. The Federal Reserve Chief, Jay Powell, who is no liberal, has been running a printing press, printing out the money that has gone out to all of these businesses. That money will have to be repaid. It's going to be repaid in the form of, and don't be surprised, it's going to be higher taxes for all of us. Our rates are going to go up. The marginal rate's going to go up. Capital gains rate is going to go up. And we're going to be looking at that for years. And it's something that our kids are going to have to take on, and our grandkids. The beauty about the $165,000, that were $165,604, is that there's no borrowing involved. It'll be taken out of our $5.7 million in cash reserves. So we do have the money on hand to fund this program. And I would think, as some people commented, well, you know, we may need this $165,000 over the next 2 years. You know, yeah, but I think if we need that, what that says for the rest of the country. You know, if we need the money and we're stronger than 99% of other municipalities throughout the country is going to be in awfully bad shape. I hope we don't wind up there, but we do have the money. This is a good thing to do. And I hope Selby responded to how the program was devised and how Judy, Anita, Heidi, and Kira presented, you know, their circumstances in terms of how they've been coping, what they plan to do, how they would use the money, but most importantly, the contribution that each of these businesses has made, and hopefully with some good fortune, will be able to continue to make. So thank you.
Thank you, John. At this point, I think I'd like to take questions for the businesses who came to visit us or for John. Does anyone have any? Christine.
Thank you very much for coming before us and for presenting. Judy, you mentioned that you could use some of this money for rent to sort of get you through to the holidays. So I have a couple of, and you all mentioned ways in which you could use this money. So I suspect that I don't know what your rents are, but that $4,000 is not much in the realm of business rent payments. And I'm also concerned because I truly believe that we're going to be facing more shutdowns going forward in the fall and as schools go back into session. And long term, are you all prepared for more shutdowns and have, you know, a way to make it forward through this?
Judy, you are muted.
Okay, so actually we have thought about that because being in the medical field, we kind of see the writing on the wall. So I'm expecting to not be able to open again. So we've just started trying to gear ourselves up for a different way of holiday shopping. We're setting up like private shopping times that people can come in, they can make an appointment and shop. We're loading more things onto the website. We're doing more marketing. We're promoting, you know, our artist work more because it's not just me and my business. It's, you know, the 100 people that I have that are selling things in my store that are also not getting any money. So I know that we're probably going to shut down again physically, but I'm really hoping that using social media and marketing ourselves that we will be able to keep our heads above water through, you know, as long as this crisis lasts, by doing things online. That's, you know, our biggest hope is that, you know, our online people they're still going to want to shop for the holidays. They still want to shop for, you know, get well gifts or, you know, birthday parties and stuff like that. So there's still a demand for what we have. We just have to figure out a new way of marketing it and presenting it. And in the meantime, the grant money will help us pay the rent so that we can keep, you know, we can keep going.
All right. Anyone else?
I can answer. So as I mentioned, I pivoted everything online, and we are actually planning to continue on with that, knowing that with the uncertainty of everything, that this has become a great way for people to continue their practice, even if they can't come in person. And we've had lots of requests of people saying, please keep these online classes going. So I feel confident, that this is something we can continue on and use it as a, carryover when the studio can't be open. I mean, as you mentioned, Christine, the rent is very high, but I have, my landlord's been really great and flexible, and he wants the businesses and Village Works to still be there when this, when all is said and done. So we're all just sort of doing our best together, and I want Revolution to be there for years and years to come. So I'm doing what it takes, and I'm going to continue to.
I'm also prepared if really it came to another shutdown or lockdown. As long as I can pay the rent, that already helps. We can do online business also. Well, the shoes are there; they're not going to go bad, and I'm at the moment still in a good position because I don't have to support myself with the business. So as long as I can pay Heidi and pay the rent, and just I could go through another lockdown, obviously not forever, but I'm confident, and I still have money left that I have not yet. So I'm just seeing how things develop before spending everything and investing everything into shoes. So I'm waiting a little bit. So before really spending my last dollar in shoes, I have a little cushion, and in case we have to lock down again, then that little cushion could be used to at least keep the expenses, just pay the expenses and wait it out basically and see how long it might take. Hopefully not too long, and hopefully it won't happen. So we'll just have to see.
Wonderful, thank you. Now, Jason, I believe this is your warrant article, no?
Yes, it is.
Would you like to speak to it?
I would like to speak to it and then make a motion. First, I'd like to applaud all of you for your entrepreneurship, and it is truly difficult to see how the difficulties have arrived since COVID-19 has come to town. But I would also point out that this is a pandemic. This is a calamity that has hit everyone in town. I certainly applaud those of you that have been able to change your business model. I think that's an absolute necessity when adversity pops up, rears its ugly head. And I would point the committee to some of the other businesses in West Acton who have successfully adjusted their model and making a go of it under these circumstances. Profit is wonderful. Profit is to be encouraged. I think every business that goes in to make a dollar, make a profit is something that should also be encouraged and applauded. But with profit, it does not mean that risk should be borne by the town or should be borne by a taxpayer. There are 43 businesses that are on the lucky list. I would point out that there are over 600 business certificates in town. I just got that number yesterday from the town clerk's office. So there are 43 businesses that have qualified or that have known and have asked, and there are another 550 plus that are not going to be on the winners list. The fact that this was originally a lottery is proof that this was picking winners and losers. And even though the 25 got expanded to 43, it doesn't change the fact that this is government picking winners and losers. Federal money is not the same as town money. As was pointed out by the selectmen, they can borrow money, which means they don't have to have it at the end of the day. They can also print their own money, which means they can inflate their way out of this. They can inflate their way out of mistakes that they make. The federal government also has the ability to spread expense across 330 million citizens, whereas in Acton we have 25,000 citizens, give or take. Do not allow the mistakes of the federal government to be a template for a local municipality to make the same mistake. There may not be borrowing. We may have the cash on hand, but it's still absolutely taxpayer money. So just because we happen to have it doesn't mean that it is of less value or of a different style. The dollar is a dollar, and this is taxpayer money that you are proposing to give to small businesses. I do not take as fatalistic approach as John Benson. I do not buy the argument that if we need this money, that we're already in such terrible shape that we might as well just throw up our hands and say, well, we're all screwed. I can't get on board with that argument. The money from Acton will be passed through these 43 businesses to the people that they owe money to. In many cases, this money will be delivered to out-of-state banks who either hold the note or hold the mortgage on the property. If any of these companies unfortunately do succumb to the difficulties of COVID-19, then we will have taken taxpayer money to pay large out-of-state banks, and it may be able to forestall failure for a month or two. And who knows, maybe some of these businesses will survive, but many of these will not. It is not the responsibility of the town, the taxpayer, the finance committee, and even though I'm not a member of it, I don't believe it's the purview of the EDC to try and swim against the tide of consumer habits. By all means, change your, if you can possibly change your business model, do. If you can't, that's unfortunate. I feel badly. By all means, as citizens of the town, we should tip heavily. We should work with the companies. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, by all means, we should tip heavily. We should work with the companies that we like as individual citizens, but we should let the market decide who wins and who loses. I want the town, the government, to continue to facilitate where we can, such as allowing Gardner Field to be used for yoga, for dining outside, for changing the rules for takeout alcoholic beverages. But I do not believe that we should be actively funding private enterprise. Finally, as a wise official characterized this to me just today, this is a philosophical wrong for no practical gain. And as difficult as this is for the individual proprietors, I do not believe that this is something where we should take taxpayer money to fund private enterprise. And so I move that the Finance Committee not recommend this article.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, time for debate. Who wants to start? Sahana. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I'm using iPad, so it's kind of tough now. The last time that we had the discussion, I was the one who brought up the questions about eligibility criteria. So having sat through the presentation of Selby, many of the things are very clear to all of us. Like I said the last time, every individual organization, municipality that can help should help in these times. This just shows that we care. Obviously, having listened to the presentations, it's evident about their needs. I also have to put in here a conversation that we have had in town for numerous years. Acton is not known as a great town for businesses, retails, etc. And so I'm looking at it this way: it's an opportunity to strategically to get the businesses that we want in town. And having said that, recently there was a post on Facebook on the Acton Mass Community Forum. And there was a huge discussion with many comments on it. So the post started with online, a person writing, "I'm concerned about empty storefronts in Acton." And then the conversation continued with how online shopping is killing small businesses in town. And then the rents are high in Acton, and we are only able to retain big banks and big stores in the town. There was also complaints about zoning as an issue where signage restrictions, it's kind of difficult to get new businesses in town. And the example that was quoted was the Trader Joe's Plaza. The other point, one of the other small business in town made, the owner said that, talking about the rents being high, the CVS Plaza, she was trying to look to rent 2,000 square feet. And this was 2 years ago, and the rents were high as 6,500. So obviously we know that rents are high in Acton. And also she continued to say that it took her 10 months to actually get a sign up on her business, and this in turn made her business suffer. So the other point, like all the other, the three women that spoke here, the small businesses are also very invested in the community. And we heard from Periwinkle Glass and Michael's Shoe Store, the yoga studio. I can actually personally tell you that I have been running the Civics Fee for the League of Women Voters Acton area for the past 9 years. And we have a local restaurant who sponsors food every single year for all the student participants, and it is actually a happy time. So for me, having talked to a few people in town and listening to these women, and the other point that I needed to get to was that the government should not be in the business of picking winners and losers. It is a very good principle to have. We should certainly strive to minimize that, but does not mean that we need to shy away from helping anyone. So for me, having looked into all this, I would actually support what the board has suggested, to go ahead and help the small businesses in town. It's not a whole lot of money, and this town can certainly afford to do this at this point. So this is where I stand. Thanks.
Thank you. Steve, where did I see your hand up? I see you next, Mike.
You didn't see my hand up, but that's okay. I'm very empathetic to all these businesses, and the ones that aren't here tonight are the ones that didn't make the list of 43. These times are tough, but what we're talking about is a tax abatement by another name, and it's a tax abatement being offered to a very, very few in this town, where there are many people and other businesses who are probably suffering just as much. I'm sure we have a lot of people that live in apartments in town with high rents that may be facing eviction in the near future. We're not offering them anything. I'd love to give these businesses $164,000, but I'd like to be able to help out other people in other circumstances as well. And there, I don't think we do have the money. Most of that 5.7 million that we hold in reserves right now came from residential taxes. And this is essentially a transfer of tax revenue from the residential to the business side, which I am not in favor of.
All right, Mike.
Well, I would just like to say that these are extraordinary times, extraordinary circumstances, and normal rules of economics or even logic no longer apply. You can tell by the programs that the government is funding, and where how we're going to pay for this is it will be very challenging. However, in this town, we are a community. The small business is what makes this town. It gives its character. They support the economy. They provide employment. They provide goods and services. some of the restaurants during these times of crisis. Fed very generously fed the first responders. They did their part. This is like peanuts for us, and it's I'm a senior citizen now, and I'm going to be talking to Brian eventually about doing something with my taxes because I'm over 65 now, and there are benefits to people that benefits out there, services out there that help the normal taxpayer. The state steps in for apartment renters that puts a ban on evictions. The state and the using federal money stepping in to help the little guy. I'm saying we should do our part to help our business little guys. Jason said there are 5,000 or whatever businesses, 500 businesses that are registered in town, but they could range anywhere from, probably Insolent Corporation down to some guy that does calligraphy in his basement on the weekends for weddings, parties. It takes all types to make a business, all sizes and shapes, and I just think we need to do this, just show that we do support our local business, and for once, makes something easier for them instead of harder for them to survive. That's my 2 cents. I would be absolutely in favor of this.
Thank you. Jason, you wanted to respond? Say something?
Just wanted to point out that large corporations and LLCs don't make that list. They don't have to file a business certificate. So Insulet is not part of Insulet and Hart, since the very large companies in town do not make that list of 600 plus. Making it easier for one company is putting your thumb on the scale towards that company at the expense of another.
Jason, could you please clarify what does put someone on that list of 600 plus businesses?
I don't have full details on that. I just got the list of everybody in town who has pulled a business certificate, and it came with the caveat from the town clerk's office that corporations and LLCs do not have to have a business certificate.
Thank you. Anyone else? Christine,
if I could speak, it's Adam.
Yes, Adam.
I just wanted to reiterate the point that Jason made, that it's virtually realistic that 9 out of 10 of these dollars are going to wind up in the pockets of large banks in New York, Boston, and Chicago, places like that. I absolutely love the sentiment of the spill, or this article, I should say, but I really feel it's a Band-Aid on a bleeding artery. I would like to see, again, and I mentioned it before, some way of qualifying the businesses to ensure that they will survive. I would like to see some assurance that that money stays within Acton, and that I could get behind. It might make more sense to do business development grants after the COVID crisis has ended. That's all. Thank you.
Christine.
I feel very strongly for the owners who took the leap and made the American dream decision to open a small business. Unfortunately, many businesses will fail during COVID. Many people will experience hardships and bankruptcy. These are terrible times that we couldn't have imagined and that we're all living in. I strongly feel that this money, it's not enough to make a difference between a business's ability to succeed or fail. It's a grant of taxpayer dollars to people who rightly took a risk and are wronged by circumstance. But the crisis isn't ending anytime soon. I think there are a lot of ways to support our local businesses, and sign me up for other measures. I just don't support this particular one.
Anyone else? Roland?
So I don't know how many people have been tuning in to the national thing on this about bankruptcies and et cetera. You see J. Jill, you see there's a big department stores in Boston, back there, based in Dallas. They have filed bankruptcy. Lord and Taylor, you know, and there's a whole list. I'm surprised Sears is still here, but that's beside the point. And you know, I had my car oil changed the other day. There was nobody there. I picked my car up and out. This is way off for them. Their inventory, I can see, is a lot smaller than what it was in January and February. And that's a sign of the times. And they have to adjust. They have to adjust their business model. And I feel strictly that this is picking winners and losers. You know, what about those ones that the business that we didn't pick and we didn't give the grant to, and then they go out or they don't go out. I do feel, I know, I sympathize with everybody, and I think it's great that you took that risk. But as Jason, Adam, and Steve has pointed out, it's risk versus reward. Now, you invest money in the stock market goes down, you sell, you took a loss. You lose your whole investment. That's the nature of the beast in that realm. I know for me personally, my wife's taking 20% pay cut. That's hard to swallow. But their executives are getting bonuses this year. Is that fair to the worker that's there every day grinding it out? No, it's not. You know, so I like Adam's idea, and I think doing something afterwards, like a business development credit, I can get behind something like that and have some kind of criteria that is based on. I just don't want to see us taking, as Steve pointed out, taking residents' money and giving it to business. It's a tough pill to swallow, and I understand that, but the way it stands now, I can't support it. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I don't see any hands. I'm going to give you my point of view. I think that up until recently, I have tended to view this as a town made up of people, which isn't a bad way to view it. But I view it as households as the taxpayers and haven't particularly taken into account the idea that the businesses not only pay taxes, but are community members, as they have all pointed out today with extreme community support that they've done. I especially see this as a member of one of the schools, and I've seen the various ways that local businesses have very willingly supported us on many things. They are also much less expensive members of our town. These are businesses ask many fewer services from us, don't send their children to school here. They end up costing us much less than your average taxpayer has, in addition to paying taxes to us. In addition to that, I have noticed that we give some form of rental assistance, that there is, and I don't know if that was specifically the town, I just had noticed on the town website that there is rental assistance available. There does not appear to be the same concept that we would be helping out the businesses here in the same way that we would help out the residents. Now, I appreciate Adam's idea of doing this as business development grants later on, but that's going to be too late for the companies that we heard from today who, in my opinion, all had strong plans for how this grant will get them not only the next few months of rent paid, but let them pivot into a new business model that will allow them to be successful going forward. I especially believe that Kira's idea of using this money to buy her new filter she needs to being able to safely open up the yoga space is a highly effective use. And as Anita and Heidi said about growing their inventory and their online presence, the idea of the pop-up stores, the scheduled shoe fittings and the in-home shoe fittings is exactly what we need to be seeing from businesses going forward in order to maintain this as both a town with a strong business presence and as honestly an interesting place to live. I doubt any of us moved here because we wanted to be just a whole bunch of houses around, but it's nice to have restaurants and stores and other things here. To Jason's point about picking winners and losers, these are the 43 companies that applied for this grant. While there was initially a lottery, sounds like it was eventually expanded. Am I correct here, Mr. Benson, that we expanded to
Yeah.
support all of the businesses?
Correct.
At some level, we support everyone in the town in different ways. The homeowners who have children in the school pay almost universally less taxes per year than it costs to educate their students. We give tax help to the elderly who qualify for it. We pick a variety of winners and losers every single day in this town in order to have a vibrant community and have the town represent what we believe in. Now, there was a statement, I believe, that Jason made and Adam echoed about this being money that goes to banks and other people outside of the state. The exact same thing is happening with people who get rental assistance from us. These landlords are not necessarily local people. And at the end of the day, even if you're giving someone assistance and paying their mortgage, that's going to the big bank out of state. The money all eventually goes back to someone who's not local. We do not live in an island that is purely self-supporting. So it is a beautiful idea, but somewhat unrealistic to expect that money given in this sense could only go as a direct benefit into Acton pockets. Let me just check my notes for one more second. Long story short, I wholeheartedly agree with Mike and Sahana that this is a program that should be supported. Anyone else? All right, I think it's time. We have a recommendation, motion and a second, I believe.
Motion is to not recommend.
All right, ready? Roll call vote. Christine.
Aye.
Looking down my list. Jason.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Mike.
No.
Sahana.
No.
Roland.
Aye.
Dave.
No.
Adam.
Aye.
Christy, I say no. Can someone tell us what that vote is?
5-4 in favor.
All right. The motion passes. So the committee will not recommend this article. I want to say thank you to Anita, Kira, and Heidi, and Judy, who was here earlier. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay.
I just want to add that the town will decide at town meeting. Let the people decide, no
Yes.
matter what we say.
I heartily agree.
Okay. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you. Now we are going to discuss Hyperlane, and Jim Snyder-Grant is here to talk to us about the Water District article. Dean, is it okay with you if we do the Water District first? I think that's going to be a quicker one. All right. Thank you. Who has the Water District article apart from Jim?
I'm happy to share the screen with the article on it, if that's helpful.
Steve, would you like that?
Sure.
Okay.
Steve, would you tell us what you've learned?
Can people see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great.
Hold on a second, Jim. I want to let Steve speak to it first.
Please.
Okay. Essentially, this is granting authority to the town manager to negotiate a deal that is in its infancy. It has to do with what's called a pilot or payment in lieu of taxes, which is a fancy way of saying that a third party is going to put solar equipment on land owned by the Acton Water District, and under such they can be not so much taxed, but they have to make a payment in lieu of personal property tax, not real property tax, but personal property tax. And the chapter cited 59 section 38H has pages and pages from the DOR about how you calculate these things. But what we're really talking about is giving the town manager authority to negotiate an agreement. We have an existing one that's been in effect for many years at the transfer station. I would expect this one would follow similar lines. And it's too early to really say what it's going to be worth. I've heard that we may see, another $45,000 or more in revenue on the solar equipment on personal property taxes. So that's what I know.
Thank
If
you.
you want a
Jim,
recommendation, I'd say we should recommend it.
thank you. And I'll come back to you for a motion. Jim, I'm sorry, I should have let you go first. Is there
No,
anything
that's
else you'd like to add to what Steve said?
Sure. So what we're talking about is these two properties that you see on your screen, 16 Knox Trail and 28 Lawsbrook Road. This is land owned by the Acton Water District, so currently there's no tax revenue that comes in from them. It turns out that the plan is to have EDF, a business in a solar developer business, lease the land and own equipment, own solar equipment on these sites. The first to come online would be the Lawsbrook site, which they would hope to open in June of 2021, and would like to start. They've got most of their permits. They'd like to finish up this the financing question so they can finish writing a lease agreement with the water district. And the Knox Trail site would be basically next year, would start being built in 2021 and come online in 2022. So we're really talking about two different kinds of revenue streams here. There is both a real estate component and a real property component. The real estate, it turns out that even a tax-exempt entity, if they lease their land to a for-profit entity, especially in the case of solar, that land becomes subject to real estate taxes. The second revenue stream we're talking about here is the real property tax, which would, if it was not a payment in lieu of taxes system, would be done in the same kind of way that other real property taxes are paid. There'd be an inventory, there'd be a valuation, and the valuation would change over time based on factors such as depreciation. The motivation for both EDF, the developer, and the town is to create a payment in lieu of taxes system for those for the real property taxes. That way, from the town's point of view, we don't have to be spending time and money revaluing this property each year. From the business's point of view, this allows them to have to know in advance the fixed amount of payments. That makes their business planning much easier. The law allows this system of payment in lieu of taxes for the real property portion. As far as we can tell, although the lawyers are still talking about it, the real estate tax stream cannot be put into a payment in lieu of taxes in this situation. That would be a normal kind of bill that would show up in the mailbox of the Acton Water District. The lease agreement with the developer would mean that the developer would actually be responsible for paying it, but it would be a separate bill. So I guess, in summary, the main thing here is that we're currently earning no tax revenue from these sites, and after the negotiations and after the real estate taxes are set, we would have income. As was explained, we don't know the amount yet. The amount that is negotiated into a pilot agreement would become part of that same set of valuations and agreements that gets reviewed by the Department of Revenue on a periodic basis. And the Department of Revenue has lots of guidance on what should be, how these amounts should be calculated. There is unfortunately no clear, totally unambiguous set of regulations. So there's negotiations that go on between the town, a town and a solar developer to figure out exactly what these pilot arrangements should be, and that negotiation is currently in process. I've heard the same kind of numbers about the total revenue that could be from both of these sites, from both the combination of real estate tax and real property tax, somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000 a year. That's the kind of range we're talking about, but nothing is clear yet. The motion in front of the warrant article for town meeting is not to fix a certain amount, but to just give the town manager the authority to work out the exact arrangements in the pilot. That would be done in consultation with our fine assessor who is on this call and can probably answer way more complicated questions than I can. And as a written agreement, it would also come before the Board of Selectmen for review before it was signed off. That's all the points I wanted to cover.
Thank you, Jim. Since we're in this view, I cannot see very many people apart
from. Oh yeah, why don't I stop sharing the screen?
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Jim or Steve? I do. Jim, it looks like an awful lot of that is covering blue areas, which I assume are water. Yeah. Is there any reason to be concerned about future liability for doing any sort of construction that close to water?
This is, of course, beyond the scope of the article, but I can tell you what I know, and other people may know more than I do. The projects are not taking up the entire parcel. They're taking up some of the parts on land. These projects have both been through the Conservation Commission, so they've taken a look at the legal setbacks that are necessary. So I think we're looking at a situation that is, protected to the normal extent of the law. The Board of Health had an issue with one of these projects, including battery storage. Some batteries do have chemicals that will need to be managed. My understanding is that they were able to work out a preliminary understanding with the developer about what's the right way to encase these chemicals so that if there is a breach at one layer, they don't continue to escape and get into the water.
And I had another question for you. I believe you said that this would be a tax and payments in lieu of taxes that would be negotiated at the time, and it was good for the companies because they can plan on that amount. What is the term of those payments?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I meant to mention that. This is a 20-year lease, and there would be a corresponding 20-year schedule for these payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Steve, would you make a motion?
Certainly. I move that the committee recommend Article 3, payment in lieu of taxes, Acton Water District.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
Thank you, Roland. All right. Christine?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Sahana?
Aye.
Roland?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
And I say aye. That, I believe, makes it unanimous. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thanks. Great to be here. I just wanted to thank my chair for assigning me an article that was easy.
Thank you so much for waiting, Dean. I believe you're here to talk to us about Piper Lane.
Hey, that's Adam.
I was trying to talk to Dean. Dean.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said Dave. Sorry.
Dean, would you like to start talking to us, or should we just ask you questions?
Pardon me?
Would you like to present some information to us, or should we have Adam do that and ask you questions?
I went over with Adam. I'll let him lead off.
All right. Adam, what do you have for us?
So there's very little to know about this article other than what is in the warrant draft. I feel that warrant draft was extremely well written, particularly liked that the maps were very detailed and seemed very accurate. So it pertains to 4 parcels of land to be purchased for conservation and preservation, approximately 5 to 7 acres. 3 parcels are contiguous and share 2 different addresses on Piper Lane. And then the 4th parcel is just really like a right-of-way, 90 School Street, doesn't include the entire portion of 90 School Street, just a right-of-way, which gets to the back portion of 4 Piper Lane. It's a piece of property, the largest portion of which, approximately 5 acres, extends deep into the Great Hill Conservation Land. And it was optioned by a developer to purchase along with the front properties in order to put in a condominium complex, which the community has fought vigorously. I don't think there's a lot to go over other than the fact that it's already been through the CPC, the Board of Selectmen, the Open Space Committee, and the South Acton Community Group, SANA, who have all supported it unanimously. I have understanding that it does not adversely affect Acton's position on 40B status. And that's, I think, partially thanks to the recent approval of the Powder Mill project, which I think keeps us in our 40B status well into 2021 or 2022. And aside from that, I don't think there's any other issues. So I can make a motion now, or we can have discussion first.
Why don't you make a motion and then we'll discuss?
Great. I move that we approve this article to purchase the said properties for Piper Lane project to the amount of $1.150 million.
So you move that we recommend?
I move that we recommend. Thank you. I'm sorry.
No. Second, do we have one? Rolling seconds. Thank you. All right. So Hannah, is that you getting ready?
I was just going to second it, nothing else.
Would anyone like to roll it? Jason?
Just curious, how many units was the proposal by the developer, and what's the delta if we move forward with this? My understanding is, if we move forward with this, are we taking out housing, or is it ceteris paribus? What's the result if we purchase this?
I believe it was a 27-unit condominium complex, of which my recollection, and I do believe it's written in the article, I just don't have access to it in front of me at the moment. It was either 7 or 10 of those units would be 40B units.
Dean, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's his number, I believe, is right. We were going to get 7 affordable units, but as noted, we're already in safe harbor anyway, so it's not going to detect. Since they've never been counted, they don't come out of our number.
Christine.
So 2 questions. Is the entirety of the purchase going to go towards Great Hill and conservation? Because I believe that I understood in an earlier presentation that some of the land might possibly be used for some sort of housing. Maybe I have that wrong. So that, and second, why didn't we as a town move to purchase this land when it was first up? Why did we wait until a developer came in and we didn't like the outcome?
Dean?
So, in answer to your second question, there had been negotiations in the past to purchase the land, and I was reading through some old town reports from a couple of years ago. It actually was listed as a potential purchase at town meeting and was withdrawn at the last minute. In every instance, the situation was that the owner of the property could not come to an agreement with the Open Space Committee as to the value of the land. So, I mean, obviously the highest value that you're going to get on land is to sell it for development. Our Open Space Committee has always been pretty careful about how they're not only the purchase price of an individual piece, but also how those purchase prices will affect people's expectations the next time somebody comes in with a piece of land that they want to sell. So There had been lengthy negotiations that went back off and on for probably 10 years to try to come to a satisfactory agreement, and it just never came to fruition. So that's the story on that. As far as potential use of the land, the Community Preservation Committee has approved this unanimously for the entire parcel to be used for conservation and open space. We had a pretty spirited conversation with CPC a couple of weeks ago to clarify that. The problem with saying, okay, we're going to save a little piece of it and we're going to put into affordable housing, that would end up essentially costing taxpayers more, because the nonprofit developers that would be interested in picking up that land and putting some affordable units in there, they'd essentially want to get the land for free. And they probably would. This was a situation, for instance, on a foreclosed unit up on School Street that was transferred to Habitat for Humanity for essentially nothing. And then the nonprofits would come back to the CPC and look for money for development costs. That, again, is exactly what happened, for instance, with Habitat for Humanity. And that's really what's happened with the Main Street project at the old Kennedy landscaping site. So we'd end up, there wouldn't be any way to recover any money. You could create some affordable units there, but at a very high cost. CPC was very mindful of this because they've got their eye on the ball. They want to push forward with the Main Street project with supporting the Acton Housing Authority project for 31 senior units on Main Street. And in fact, the advocate on CPC for affordable housing, Nancy Cole, actually spoke very vehemently against diverting any affordable housing money away from the Main Street project and putting it onto Piper Lane. So the expectation from CPC and the approval from CPC is that this is all open space. Now it is, I believe it's on our agenda for our next selectmen's meeting Monday night to have a further discussion about the fate of the house. But my expectation is that there will be no reuse of the house. It'll probably be demolished, and I will certainly move to do that just to clarify this. It really is not in my previous life with the town, I got saddled with a number of vacant buildings, and I don't want to wish that on anybody. You look at how we've been on top dead center, just continuously spending more money on vacant houses for things like Morrison Farmhouse, the Asa Parlin House behind Town Hall. And although the project finally worked out really well, the old high school, which ended up as as a nice affordable development there, that was just it was a nasty situation to be in, and it took about 10 years to come to fruition. So I don't think that the town should really be that heavily in support of trying to create affordable housing. There are other ways of doing it. And the last one that, although it didn't go for affordable housing, I was the custodian of the building right adjacent to the existing Magoon house, which we're going to be purchasing, presumably, the Gable property. And it takes a long time for the government to grind through these things and unload those properties. So it's just a constant drumbeat of money going to no good purpose. So that's a preview of what I intend to talk about on Monday night. And I think the CPC is all pretty much lined up with this. They took their vote. This is supposed to be strictly open space.
Yeah, Dean, you forgot about the frozen pipe house, whatever that was.
Yeah, that's the gable house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two questions. Was the property appraised, and if so, for how much?
There was an appraisal done. The appraisal has not been made public. The appraisal is higher than the offered purchase price.
Okay.
Which is required in order to use CPC money for this. And it's a decent delta between the appraised price and the offered price.
And the wording, final wording in the warrant, will it specify to be used for open space, or is it going to say general municipal purposes?
It'll be for open space. I just reviewed the draft wording that council has put together. They just wanted to verify a few things, but we would not be able to use the CPC funds if we had any mention of general municipal. There will be and there is wording in the draft warrant that I reviewed today, specifically to put a permanent conservation restriction on the entire property.
Okay.
Thank you. I saw Dave's hand earlier, so Dave.
So just to be very clear, this is CPC funds that would be purchasing this property?
Yes.
And the warrant, the way it's worded now, and I apologize for being blunt, there's very little useful information except for the purchase price in it. It just is a bunch of plot information, the one that I have from yesterday evening. So as much as that could be cleaned up, and if it's going to be strictly limited to open space or whatever, and just as long as that's all clear, I think that'd be helpful. No, I'll just say philosophically, I'm generally not a huge fan of land purchase, particularly to stop development. I mean, we've all seen this, the story a bit in the past with, as you mentioned, Kennedy among others. So I see the arguments for buying this, but my general sense is it always seems kind of reactionary to a developer looking to do something, and the ultimate purpose for it is less solidified than I would like. I mean, I don't think most of us need a formal plan, but just having some, pretty well thought out philosophy for how this land will be used in open spaces, I guess, fits under the mandate of CPC relatively well. But I would like to just circle back to see, if the article could be cleaned up a little bit, the wording, just because it's very, it's a page now of just sort of, here's the plots of land and here's the purchase price. And I'd like to see that just a little tightened up. Thanks.
1 second, Dean. Adam, did you mean to come back on for something specific?
I did. I just wanted to comment that I would like to make sure that that wording also says that it's for the intended purpose. In the conversations I've had with Dean and John, it was very clear that that's for open space. And so I had not even noticed that it wasn't written specifically in the warrant article. So I think that needs to be revised.
Did you want to say something, Dean?
Yeah, certainly we'll clean up that wording and clarify that. I think after our meeting, selectmen's meeting Monday night, I think we'll be able to be a little more unequivocal about it. Secondly, as far as buying land to keep it from being developed, I agree with that. That we shouldn't be doing that. I think this is a little bit different because it was on the priority list for the Open Space Committee for quite some time. It's not a piece of land that's not attached to anything else. It's an integral part of the Great Hill Conservation Area. There's always been sort of a plan to do it. It was just they couldn't reach an agreement on the money. Certainly, development is going to continue, and I would not like to see any branch of the government randomly going out and trying to put developers out of business. They certainly provide a product that we all need. But I do think this is a little different where it was identified many, many years ago. Great Hill is one of our oldest conservation areas, and it's always sort of in the back of everybody's mind. It's just we couldn't get to the dollar value.
Roland, I believe you had your hand up for a while.
Maybe you might be able to clarify when I throw my old CPC back. So CPC buys a property, it has to go in a deed restriction that it's open space, and that's the way it is in perpetuity. But what I understand, and I might be wrong, is that they are looking to bond this from CPC to use this so they're not paying the full purchase price out of their set aside, which to me kind of sets a bad precedent because they did it with the piece in West Acton. I forget the name of it right now. It's on my head, and they're paying that for whatever 15 years, 20 years. And what they do is they put money into the open space set aside fund, and then they appropriate money out of the open space set aside fund. So it's kind of it's an accounting thing that I don't like the way they do that. And I think if you have the money in the open space set aside, instead of growing the open space set aside every year, spend the money and buy that piece of property and pay for it, so you're not paying interest on it, because the interest, as we know, adds up over time, and you have less of a balance than if you paid it in cash and then kept it every year for the next couple of years, still putting money in a set aside fund. That's my opinion on that. I'm in favor of it, but I just don't like bonding it versus paying the cash when you have the cash, because you're not getting anything on your interest rate anyway right now. It's ridiculous. So why get 1 basis point keeping the money in the bank versus paying for it and paying in the bonding and paying all this money in the bond that you don't need to do, plus the bond cost, because it does cost to bond it. And that again adds into the value, it adds into the cost. So the cost is really not what we're appropriating at town meeting, it's above that. So I think we should pay it in cash.
To clarify, however, Roland, you think this is a good idea? You just don't like how CPC is paying for it?
Yes, I think it's a good idea. It's a valued piece of property, and it does abut other conservation lands. So I'm totally in favor of it. I just don't like the mechanism of which they're going to pay for it.
Thank you. Jason?
I'd like to say that I definitely would like to, not to be a broken record, but I definitely want to see in the article that the money is coming from CPC. I want to see that there is going to be a restriction, open space restriction set on it. Lacking those two things, I don't know if we should take a position on this tonight if the language is going to significantly change on Monday night. I would like to add, though, that if there's 28, rereading the last little bullet here, 28 units as proposed by a developer minus the one existing structure, take our standard tax levy. The way I see this, if we were to get one child of school age for each of the resultant 27 units, this project will pay for itself within 3 years. So from that perspective, I see it as a good return on our investment if I can get some guarantee that this will be tied up as a open space set aside and that the money's coming from CPC. I'm not trusting, you all know that about me. I would much prefer to see that language in the article before we vote on it, rather than a wink and a promise that that's what it's going to say come next Friday night. And then lastly, I would like to disagree slightly with my good friend and colleague Roland, considering just how low borrowing costs are now. I'm less upset about bonding it now than if we were at 5 or 6%. But so if we could get a guarantee of the language change, I'd be willing to move forward tonight. But I'm going to vote against this until I see better language, and perhaps Adam would take a friendly amendment to hold off on this until we get final language.
Steve?
Don't get too worked up about the language in the article. While I agree it should be clarified, remember it is the language of the motion that matters at town meeting. So what we would want to see is the draft motion.
Those are attached.
Yeah.
I didn't see it in there.
That's right.
So,
It says Mr. Turner moves to town. Good luck moving to town, Mr. Turner.
I would say that I'd be willing to take it on faith tonight and vote in favor, subject to a vote if it doesn't turn out that way, to not recommend.
Dave?
Yeah. First, to Roland's point about bonding versus paying for it all at once. Bonding costs are extremely low right now, and the plan is with our finance department to go out for bonding on this plus the final bonding for the fire station at the same time, and roll those together and be able to solve to absorb some of the transaction costs of setting out that bond. Secondly, it's a philosophical thing about how much money should be in the open space set aside as compared to bonding. That was discussed a couple of years ago when they purchased the Wright Hill property, which was also a 50-50 split between cash up front plus bonding over a long period of time. The desire from the Open Space Committee, and this is supported by the Community Preservation Committee, is to make sure that we've got a really substantial amount of money in cash in that open space fund, because it gives us credibility when we start negotiating or when they start negotiating with other landowners. There are a couple of parcels of land that have been discussed for a number of years. A lot of things going on in the background. We're having a substantial amount of money in cash certainly helps with the negotiations. So there are other towns that we've spoken with that basically they bond all of their CPC purchases, and as money comes into CPC, the money goes out immediately to pay off those bonding costs, and they're actually carrying a fairly small amount of money in open space set aside fund. So it's a philosophical issue that goes on, but a lot of it is we want to preserve a substantial amount of cash in that open space set aside fund.
Dave, does your point speak to this, or can we go back to Roland?
Just to follow up to what Dean was just saying.
Go ahead.
So what you're saying is the town would bond out the purchase of this land, and then the interest on the bond and so on would be paid through CPC fees?
Yes.
Has that been done in Acton before?
That's what's being done right now for the Wright Hill purchase in West Acton that was done a couple of years ago. And what happens is that, say if CPC is getting between town money plus the state match, which is not really a match, say $1.2 million or $1.5 million in revenue every year, we know we've got obligations to pay off against that. So some of that money goes immediately towards paying off the Wright Hill, and some of it will go immediately to pay this off. So it's not going to come out of general tax revenue to pay off the bonding. It's going to come out of CPC receipts.
But how do we know those things? I mean, how do we know that CPC money is going in there, and how do we know that it's not coming out of the general fund, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, I guess I'm not familiar with the whole concept in general.
Right. Well, one of the ways that we know that right now for the Wright Hill property is that when we vote the CPC allocation at town meeting, there's a long spreadsheet that's presented about pluses and minuses, where money's going, and that's specifically noted in that spreadsheet and in that presentation. And the same sort of assurances would be generated here, and we can certainly clarify that with the wording of the motion to make sure that everybody is on board with it. CPC has voted specifically the 50-50 split, and has specifically said their intention is that the bond payments would come out of the Community Preservation Fund. So it's,
What's the 50-50 split?
pardon me?
What you said? What is the 50-50 split?
Well, the 50-50 split, 50% of the cost of this purchase would be out of the open space fund. That would
I see.
That'd be cash, and then the rest of it would be bonded over 20 years.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Now, there's some technicalities here involved in it because it's going to be a while before we get out to the bond market. So all of the money immediately would come out of the open space fund, and then once we went out to bonding, then the open space fund would be reimbursed for that 50%. So we're paying the CPC would pay 100% initially, and then they get 50% of that back into the fund and replenish their reserves.
Oh, I see.
Roland.
Dean, do we happen to know what the balance is in the open space set aside fund right now in CPC?
I believe it's about $2.5 million, but that's just off the top of my head.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's about what it said in the document they sent out recently. Steve.
Just a couple of points clarification. So CPC has no ability to issue bonds on their own. So whatever is issued is the general obligation bond of the town of Acton. Each year for Wright Hill, the bonding cost, is an item in the appropriations the CPC puts together for town meeting authorization. The only quirk is that should at some future date the townspeople ever decide they don't want to do CPC anymore because it is a surcharge, that if that indeed ever happened, those bonding items would not go away. The surcharge would continue even if CPC was no longer authorized by the townspeople. The surcharge would continue until those bonds are paid off.
Dave.
Sorry, just one more follow-up is, I think those are important points because I don't think we've ever discussed, first philosophically, whether we want to borrow money to make land purchases, number one. At least I don't recall. And then number two, there are these situations where CPC, for whatever reason, may be in a different form 5-10 years from now. And as Steve accurately points out, the town is going to be on the hook for all of these financings. And so on and so forth. And just me personally, I think it should be somewhat of a discussion rather than, I'm not completely familiar with Wright Hill, but I do think, this Piper Lane as well as that property, if we're going to be borrowing money to make land purchases, that's something a little more substantive than just traditional CPC funds that have been collected, that are sitting in a bank account somewhere that we all know are there, that are going out to buy, this property or that property, or for whatever causes that are under the CPC mandate. Just me personally, I'd like to have a more robust discussion on that, just because I think there are a number of things that could potentially go awry there. And I'm just off the cuff, not entirely comfortable with making land purchases with borrowed money, whether it's for CPC or the town in general. I know we've probably done that in some form. It just hasn't been as, as clear to me. Maybe I should say it that way.
Dave or anyone else, maybe Brian, you can help with this. Any idea of who we should invite to speak to us about that? Clearly, we can invite the CBC. Roland.
So definitely invite the CPC. I think you also might want to invite the Open Space Committee as well, because they're the ones who are driving it. I know I'd like to have Dean there because he's a wealth of knowledge in this area, and John Benson, and also Steve Newton, because Steve was the liaison where I was on CPC to the Finance Committee, and John, I I started, John Benson was the chair, or was on CPC at the time. So I think he did CPC, and also obviously have Brian as representative from the town, and maybe the town manager as well.
Thank you. I will work to get them on our schedule. Dave, does that interfere with your thinkings that we should vote on this at this point in time?
I think we can vote on it. I would say, you know, I don't hear enough to make me supportive myself. Obviously, everyone is entitled to their own way, but I just have a number of questions lingering, and Dina, thanks for your answers thus far. I mean, there's just a few that, you know, it's the terminology in the warrant. It's just a lot of these sort of question marks that I personally have, and I will say I'm a little biased generally on these types of projects. So I was a little disinclined to begin with, but I'm prepared to vote. But I'm also content to wait if we want to do that, to have language tightened up or whatever Jason suggested earlier.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I am generally against the idea of land purchases. However, this sounds like something that we have a specific plan for, and I think it just makes sense right there as part of Bright Hill. It sounds like the town has been trying to get it for a long time. This has a very different gut feeling than other properties we have. It also sounds like we are not paying a premium on this like we did with the Main Street property, just to get our hands on it, if I'm understanding what Dean said about this needing to be in a way that the CPC can actually pay for it. Below, I think that you were saying it was below appraised cost now, appraisal. Yeah. All right, we have, I believe, a motion to recommend. Would anyone like to specifically, strongly assert that we should wait until we have the final language? I take that silence as a no. We have a motion to recommend in a second, so let's vote on it. Christine?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Hannah?
Aye.
Roland?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
And Christy, I say aye.
I don't think I.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I got you. Sahana?
Aye.
All right. That passes. Thank you very much, Dean. I appreciate your coming and speaking to us. I just need to get up my warrant here. We have discussed Articles 1, 2, and 3 at this point. And 4. Did we vote on the small business grant? I believe we did. Thank you.
Yes, we did. We voted 5-4 to not recommend it.
Okay. Article 5 is the statutory speed limit bill. I believe this is Christine.
Yep, this one's fairly straightforward. Per our Public Works Director, Corey York, there are frequent requests to reduce speed limits throughout town. And currently the board does not have the authority to reduce speed limits to 25 miles per hour. So in passing this article, the town would adopt Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 90, Section 17C and 18B, which would allow, in the interest of public safety, the town to establish speed limits of 25 miles per hour on any roadway inside a thickly settled or business district. So it's basically just making it easier for the town to reduce speed limits where they see fit.
No, I believe that's only for town roads. State roads don't count, like 111?
Exactly, yes, state roads do not count. It is simply just for town roads.
Okay. Any question? I'm sorry, did you want to make a motion?
I would be happy to. Especially if I had kept the language up in front of me. I move to recommend Article 6, statutory speed limits and regulatory safety zones.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Any debate? Steve?
Do we anticipate, speeding ticket revenue going up?
That's a question I failed to look into. Maybe Mr. Benson has an idea.
Just looking for a fiscal impact.
It's a good point.
That is a good point. Should we be making a recommendation on this?
Actually, I was going to say the same thing, and I was going to say that I'll be the one contributing to those tickets.
I'm right behind you, Sahana, and I'm happy to withdraw if the committee feels that because this doesn't have a monetary impact, it's really not in our purview to.
It may have a favorable impact. It can't possibly have a unfavorable impact. So I don't see why we shouldn't vote on it.
All right, I'll leave it.
Yeah, but
Go ahead,
should some members abstain if they have a personal interest in this article?
Fortunately, the Acton cops has not been my problem. I can't say the same for the Stadies.
Okay, we'll go ahead with voting. The motion is to recommend this article about statutory speed limits. Christine?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Sahana? Roland?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
And I say aye. Wonderful, the motion passes. We will recommend, the statutory speed limit warrant article. The next one I see on here is accepting legislation for having Saturday office hours for town hall. Whose article is this? Poland, please educate us.
So I did get something from the town manager today. I'm going to read so we understand it. So adopting this will allow the clerk's office to treat Saturdays the same as Sundays as it relates to voter registration. Currently, if the voter registration deadline falls on a Saturday, the clerk needs to open the town hall on the Saturday and keep the office open until 8 o'clock at night. That is rarely anyone uses that Saturday to register, and it's costly because you get paid overtime, etc. So if the town accepts this, and in the future a registration deadline falls on a Saturday, the clerk's office can extend the deadline until Monday, like they do now if the deadline falls on a Sunday. So I look at it as if the financial impact would be a savings to the town, and that it would be. So I motion that we recommend this article.
Second.
All right, let's go for a vote. Christine?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Sahana?
Aye.
Roland?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
And I say aye. Hold on, it occurs to me I'm looking at an old version of the warrant.
That would have been Article 6.
Thank you.
Next is Strawberry Hill.
Actually, that was Article 7 in the most recent draft. The draft that came out last night, that was Article 7.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would say that we seem to have, I'm not suggesting we have to go in order, but I'm suggesting that Article 5, which is the non-binding resolution.
Thank you. That's what I was just trying to figure out. Okay, this is my article. This is a non-binding resolution attempting to get the town to sign on to get the state House and state Senate to support a bill that attempts to get the gas leak situation more under control. It would allow the town to work more closely with the gas suppliers to ensure that they survey for leaks when they are doing other road work and develop a plan to repair that. It is a general, speaking of support for moving the state away from using gas as a fuel. And I think that's about it. In my opinion, this is has probably some financial impact somewhere that is indeterminate at this point in time. And I think this is really outside of our charter as a committee, especially as a non-binding article. So I move that we make no recommendation on Article 5, the non-binding resolution declaring a climate emergency. Do I have a second? Thank you.
Second.
Any debate? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Christine?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Zahana?
Aye.
Roland?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
And I say aye. All right. Article 6 we did. Sorry, office hours. Restriction, release of restriction 127 Strawberry Hill Road. This is Article 8. This is this. Mike, please tell us about it.
Is there any way we can get that article on the screen? Anybody have that? I can describe it. Basically, it's the intersection of Pope Road and Strawberry Hill Road. Visualize that if you can. If you're coming to Acton on Strawberry Hill Road from Concord, you want to make a left on Pope Road. It's a very tough intersection. It's visually, it's hard to see what's coming.
Thank you.
There you go. So it's the along Pope Road and Strawberry Hill Road. There would be a thin slice of
Christine, can you point to where it is? There's a little sliver from Pope Road over to Strawberry Hill Road.
Yeah, alongside from the top of Strawberry Hill Road
the other way
to the along it parallels Pope Road. So
not quite that big, but yes, over there.
Basically, you can see that like where it says to Carlisle, it would widen that part of Pope Road to open up the visibility, make it a much safer intersection. In a nutshell, the property owner would grant us an easement for that sliver of land, and we would allow him to remove a deed restriction that allow him to do some improvements to his property. So it's basically a win-win. It's no cost. We get the easement for nada, and he gets his deed restriction lifted or amended, and we're happy.
Christine, can you get sharing so I can see everyone, please? Thank you. Any questions? Christine.
Do you know, Mike, what business it is? What's up there?
It's a residential property.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Most likely, it would allow him to build a huge piece of property. Yeah. It would, most likely, he could build like a second property. John?
Yeah, it would allow him to the deal would be, the restriction would allow him to subdivide the property, and they could build create a second lot where another home could be built down along Pope Road. And we get an easement to clear up a dangerous intersection.
Do we know what the zoning for that area is?
Oh, it's residential.
Yeah, what size lots?
That I don't know.
I'm wondering how much we're opening ourselves up for some sort of bigger development in time.
No, it would be one house.
Dean, did you want to add to that?
Was Dean here? He would.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be one house. The lot is considerably oversized. When the development was done around there, this is part of Stony Mead and the other houses around there. When the development was done, there was a restriction put on the deed that said that any house had to be set back at least 100 feet from the edge of Pope Road. And it had strictly to do with aesthetics. They have the right and the ability to actually put another house on the lot now anyway and subdivide it. It's just that that new house would be very close to the existing house. So this way, they'd be able to put the house a little bit closer to Pope Road, still meet all of the zoning setbacks, all of the underlying zoning. It's strictly the restrictive covenant that was put on here when the entire Mildred Pope Moore property was subdivided, which went all the way down Pope Road to Stony Mead subdivision.
Christine.
Christy, I have the map available. Do you just want to see it real quick?
The zoning map?
The actual Google map with so you can see the property we're talking about.
Oh, no, the picture here is fine. I was just wondering if removing this restriction opened that entire property up to greater development than simply a subdivision into a second lot. All right. Do we have a motion, Mike?
Yeah, I move that the town, just a second. I move that the town authorize the selectmen to take all actions necessary to release the restriction as set forth in the article.
Do you mean that you move that the finance committee recommend this article?
Yes, that's exactly what I said.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Wonderful. All right. Christine.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Sahana. Aye. Roland.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Adam.
Aye.
And I say aye.
Sound like we got some extra votes there.
Yeah.
In the background? Okay, Article 9, amend the zoning bylaw, housekeeping corrections for the personal wireless facility. Whose is this?
That's mine. And this is literally just a name change. There is no chance of material impact to the town, but the reason why we did recommend this when it was part of the previous town meeting is not recommending this and not making the change does potentially leave us open to being in violation of larger bylaws. So this is just a name change and to make sure that everything's codified and proper and from a housekeeping perspective, we should go ahead and make this change. So I move that the Finance Committee recommend Article 9, the amending of the zoning bylaw to change the personal wireless facility name.
We have a second?
Second.
All right, Christine.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Sahana.
Aye.
Roland.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Adam.
Aye.
And I say aye. I think that's it, everyone. Thank you so much. Now, it occurs to me, I have not had a chance to write these down. Has someone been able to, or can people email me for their...
That's Brian's job. He's on it.
Brian, have you done that?
He's got a sheet of paper for every
Thank
single
you.
vote.
Wonderful. I had been hoping that we could get started on the point of view because we're reaching a point in time in the budget season where it would be good to start telling the town and school what we think so that they can start budgeting appropriately. However, I believe it is far too late in the evening for us to take that up. What do people think about that?
There's always next meeting.
Dave?
Madam Moderator,
We adjourn.
Madam Chair.
No, we cannot adjourn yet.
Sorry.
Oh, darn it.
I will stop you right there. 1 second. I believe the next item of our agenda is potential departmental reports. Brian, do you have anything, or Mr. Benson?
No, Brian, do you have anything?
I do. Just a quick update on tax collections through Q1 and just to kind of give you a snapshot of where we are. So we ran the latest numbers, and right now we've collected 96% of that August 1st bill. So again, we don't see any deterioration in tax collections. We think we're in really good shape. It's pretty much what we historically see at this time of year. And as we get closer to the end of the year, we close that gap. So I think right now we're in good shape.
Thank you. Any Board of Selectmen updates?
Yeah, no, we're meeting again on Monday night. Just wanted to give you one up, a clarification. Powder Mill will put us in the 10% safe harbor. That will carry us through the 2020 census, and we'll get a reset number, which should come in probably late 2021. We're probably about, from the anticipated reset number, we're probably about 15 units, affordable units short of where the reset number will wind up. That assumes the Piper Lane purchase passes. If it didn't pass, we probably about 7 or 8 short. The key project to watch is the residences at Kelly's Corner. I reported at your last meeting that the ACHC and our board both sent in a requested support letter for that project on the developer's behalf, noting the town's contributions to the project, financial contributions to the project. The comprehensive permit for the residences Kelly's Corner was issued in 2018. The funding for that project is public. It's through the state. It's being built by the same fellow who did the Acton High School project at Charter Road and Mass Avenue. And that took about 10 years to do. That was a rather complex project. He is putting in for another round of financing at the end of this month, and then there's another round that would come in mid-fall. He's committed to seeing it through. The financing competition is very steep, and he's committed to to sticking with it. But that's a project we have to keep our eye on and hope it works.
Thank you.
That gives you where we are.
Wonderful. Sahana, please.
Just wanted to add to John's thing, the updates. The selectmen met on Thursday, August 13th to discuss about the Diversity, Equity and Inclusivity Commission, and the charge is posted on the town website. And Selectman Martin is going to be in charge of the commission. So if anybody is interested, they need to email him by September 17th.
Thank you. On to committee business. I would like to, Christine, did you have something?
Sorry, as long as at some point we ask Sahana about Independence Day, that would be great.
We will get there. But first, I would like to take the very important job of introducing Isha, who was selected to be on the Finance Committee. She was appointed on Friday. She will be an associate member. For us, Isha, sorry, first of all, how do you say your last name?
It's Ganguly.
Ganguly?
Yes.
Thank you. Could you please introduce yourself to the committee?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Isha Ganguly. I'm delighted to be an associate member. I've been a resident of Acton since 2003. I am a PhD molecular biologist by training, and currently am working in the clinical development of cancer drugs for a biotech company. So this is a very different enterprise for me, but also related since I deal with budgets in my work life. But I'm delighted to contribute in any way I can and look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We look forward to actually meeting you in person someday.
Likewise.
She did point out in her interview that it is possible that if she can't be joining us, it would be in order to help someone's life. That is when she would be missing our meetings. Jason.
If I could just take 10 seconds to point out that I think it's great that we have another woman joining our committee on the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. So that's something that just a tip of the cap to history on this one. And so we're almost 50-50 on the committee now. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay, we have no minutes to look at tonight, so we're up to liaison reports. Christine, do you want to start us off? Are there any?
The school committee has not met since our last meeting.
Okay. Jason.
The school building committee has met. We're still moving forward. As was mentioned at the last meeting, there was a small hiccup with a bus loop, but they're trying to remediate that as fast as possible. There was also a mild hiccup with the placement of the modulars, but they are also trying to remediate that as quickly as possible. There's that is aided by the fact that a significant portion of the Gates community is choosing to start the year, or is choosing to do the year through remote learning. At this point, we are still on schedule and under budget, to steal a phrase of my good colleague Mike Majors, for the other school building project. But as our owner's project manager states, we're not done digging in the ground yet, so there's no reason to sleep well at night yet either. Thank you.
All right, now before Dave or Adam attempt to make any motions, I do not see any other.
I actually made it before. I didn't realize that we.
Dave, are you making a motion?
Can we adjourn?
No. So Hannah was going to tell us about.
Oh, I'm sorry. I retract that motion.
Thank you.
So it was India's Independence Day, the 74th Independence Day on August 15th. And a few days before, India Association of Greater Boston, because usually every year they hold it at the at Boston Hash Shell, where there are about probably thousands of people who attended. So of course this year they couldn't do that. So they thought about a different way of doing it. It was a unique idea. They approached all the towns and cities to get permission to raise India's national flag with a little ceremony. And so they did that with Acton too, and they approached the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen were very gracious to approve it, but they had a condition that a resident in town needs to be in charge of this. So I was in their meeting the other night, and Selectman Jim Snyder Grant, he had actually forwarded that mail to me the day before. So I kind of knew what the request was, so it was easy for me to take it on. And it all fell together in 4 days. It was a wonderful event. We couldn't have too many people, so it was just a few people that, I could send out the invites. And it was great to see the Indian national flag flying high alongside with the American flag in front of Town Hall. And I believe we created history in the town of Acton, not just by raising the Indian national flag. I think we had not raised any national flags earlier than this. So this was history that was made in our town, at least. So it was a moment of pride, and I was very honored to be a part of it. And it was a wonderful gesture from the town of Acton. And our legislators attended the event in a short period of time, so it all turned out great.
Wonderful. I have a question for everyone. It's, as I said, time for us to be working out our point of view. Our normal meeting would be scheduled for next week, so please tell me whether you would like to do that. Our meeting immediately following would be September 8th, which is town meeting time, and then we won't meet again on this normal schedule until September 22nd. Would we like to meet before the 22nd to work on the point of view, or are people happy with waiting until then? Christine.
I will be out of town next week, so please feel free to forward the discussion without me. I will share the most current version of the point of view, but I won't be able to attend next week's meeting.
I was not planning on meeting next week unless people would like to meet to discuss the point of view.
Let's get through a special town meeting first.
I generally agree with that. Any other opinions? I see Mike is not interested in meeting before then. Steve doesn't want to. Christine is happy not to. I'm not sure what a thumbs up means.
I'm taking everybody's silence as that they agree with you.
Okay, wonderful. Dave or Adam, would you like one of you like to say something?
Jason's had a hand up.
Oh, I am so sorry, Jason.
Before town meeting, do we wish to meet a half an hour early or an hour early before town meeting?
A half an hour?
I don't think we need an hour.
Given that we've covered all articles, I don't think we need an hour either. I think if there's something that comes up.
Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shouldn't Isha be calling the motion to?
We have a new youngest member.
Yes, I second that.
Now, Isha, it is tradition for the youngest member until someone new joins, for them to make a motion for us to adjourn for the evening. Now, the one trick is, as an associate member, you don't have a vote.
Right.
But you can still make a motion, and I don't know if you can second a motion, but you can make a motion and someone else will second it.
Okay. I make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Wonderful. Christine?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Sahana?
Aye.
Roland?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
And I say aye. Thank you, everyone. Good evening.